Hello, my name is Matthew Clockle, and I'm going to be doing a code review for 3 different projects. Now, the first project will be IT315 Object Orient Analysis and Design, which will cover the category of software engineering and design. That's what you see here in the screen. The second project will be IT145 Foundations and Application Development, where we'll go over algorithms and data structures. And then the third, 220 Fundamentals of Data Mining, which is databases, and we'll be going over the databases and how to perform data mining principles. Now, as you see here, we have 2 different actors. One is a staff and one is a student. Now, the staff can log in, maintain course records, maintain class records, register a student for classes, and also maintain student records. Okay, so here we have a sys-communication diagram. We have the student or employee that enters student information, goes to the student information system, and it moves on to the course where they enter course information and enter future classes. From here, once the information is entered, you'll have a display of all future class start dates, which goes back to the student information system. Then the student or the employee selects the class 1 semester out, which goes to the class box here. And then 3 class registration limit will pop up if the GPA is less than 3.5, or no limit on the number of classes if the GPA is greater than 3.5, which will move back to the student information system where the end user session will happen. Now, here are the variables all properly defined with meaningful, consistent, and clear names. You can see here we have student and employee, student information system, the course, and the class. So everything is clearly defined here. If you look at the structure of this diagram, does the code completely and correctly implement the design? I would say so, if you can follow along and kind of understand how this part of the software works. Okay, now we're moving on to IT145 Foundations and Application Development. So here you can see the Android Studio IDE, and this is so far what I have for the application. Now, I never finished this application completely, so that is one thing that I can do for this code review final, is to continue working on this application until it's finished. But for now, we can go over to what we do have here. So as you can see here, we have the register for the application, where you enter your first name, phone number, email address, and password, and then register for this application. We can look at the structure here. Does the code completely and correctly implement the design? So here's the code for this particular design of the screen. Everything's pretty well put together here. However, as you look at this box, it's very hard to read it, so I would blow this logo up a little bigger. I would probably space this down so these buttons are more towards the bottom. And if you look at the code, it's pretty well organized. You can see you can change the different variables, but overall it's all labeled pretty nicely here. Now, once the registration is complete, you're able to go to the screen and log in. So this button will allow you to register. We already did that, so you can type in your email address, password, and to sign in. If you forget your password, you can click this button here and it'll bring up the forget password menu. But for now, again, I would probably blow this up a little bigger, spread it out these down closer to the forget password button. So I could do a little bit here to make it look a little better to implement the design. So that's one part of the coding review I would change, is the structure. The structure of this app needs to be changed. Now here's the forgot password screen. It's pretty basic, and I think this can be changed a lot overall as well. As you can see in the other screen, it was blue background. This one is white, so I would change it to match the other, so where it'll have the blue background and these boxes will be white so you can read it. So that again is part of the structure where I would change the design to correctly implement design in a better way. Now this screen, again, it's white. I'd probably change it so it's that blue background with white box lettering. Otherwise it kind of looks too white and it's hard to follow along. But here is the add an item screen where you add an item for the inventory. You type in the description, how many units, and the quantity, and then you can click add item and it'll add to your inventory list. Overall, though, I like the layout. The layout's good. I just want to change the coloring to match what we saw for the login screen, which is here, where it's blue and white, just like that. So I'd change everything so it looks more like this. Here's another screen. Again, it's white. I would do the same thing with the layout. This is to edit your current items, where you have the description, the quantity, and the item unit, and then you can save it. Now this screen, I would probably change the border to that white, that blue color, but leave the rest white here. And this will have all your inventory items listed. Alright, so we're on to the code for the login screen. So now the variables are all variables properly defined with a meaningful, consistent, and clear names. I believe so. I mean, everything on here says login button, register button, forget pass button. Maybe I can put password, but it's still kind of long. But overall, you can understand all the variables. Now also, there's in-text citation, so you can follow along with the code. So the code is well documented for one to understand what's going on and following along. And here we have some if statements. If the email holder is empty, if the empty holder is true, to bring up a message, user email is empty. Else if the password's empty, user password is empty. And then you return the message at the end. And this goes through the loops and branches. Are all loops, branches, and logic constructs complete, correct, and properly nested? This is all working code, so it is properly nested and working complete corrected code. Here's the code for the add item, which extends app compat activity. We can see the variable names, user email, item description value, item unit value, increase quantity, decrease quantity, so it all is readable and you can follow along with what it's doing. So I'd say the variable names are good. Don't have to add too much there. Again, there's still a lot to be, not a lot, but there's still more to be done to get this application up and running. I didn't get to finish it completely. As you can see, the classes, we have add, delete, item, list to, login. There I can update these variable names. I think that might be an improvement for this coding review, is to change these names here to match up more with the classes. I think this is not, I think I can do better in that sense there. Okay, so the final project is DAT 220 Fundamentals of Data Mining, which we're going to go into the database. So here, for this project, we have a CSV file. So we got the first name, last name, city, county, state, zip. The variable names, I think, could be changed a little bit to make them more understandable. As we get over here, we can see some of the variable names are harder to understand, like MARR-bin. Might not know what that is. Web store spend, it's okay. It can be a little better. Web purchase, yes or no. Most of the variable names are good, but some of them I would update just to make them more readable, and that would go towards the variable part of the code review. Alright, so for this final project, we basically took that CSV file and we performed data mining practices. So here we have a dendrogram, and there's a lot of data grouped together. You can see there's clusters of data. For this analysis, I think there's a little too much going on, so I'd probably break it down into different sections to make it more readable. But overall, there's about a total of 20 natural clusters in this diagram here. Now here we have a linear regression line that shows you the web source spend by restaurant. So by each restaurant, how much people are spending in that particular restaurant. This is pretty good information that a restaurant can use. I would keep this information there. And here we see web source spend by income. Now I do see a problem here. You see the zero. There's a lot of zeros here making up most of the data. I'd probably get rid of zero altogether, just so the data is, or separate it so the data shows more or different results there. But as you can see on this chart here, you can see the data skew, and the most spending is happening right here. Now this cluster of data, you can see the web source spend by age. And this also shows a little bit of a skew of data in this region, and we can pull different information comparing these two variables together. This shows some good information here. Web purchase, yes or no, by web visits. 1 is equal to no, 0 is equal to yes, and as you see, the data shows that between 2 and 3 visits, it's customers are more likely to make purchases. This is good information when pairing data together to show more information on the data about this particular database. As you can see, there's 100% probability of the make a purchase once you hit 2 to 3 visits. As customers hit 1 visit, there's a 50% probability, and no visits is 0% probability of spending. Part of the variables are all variables properly defined with meaningful, consistent, and clear names. We've got web purchase, YN, yes or no, by restaurant. Now the restaurants are labeled by numbers, so that can be a little bit confusing on where the restaurant is exactly. That could be changed. Alright, well that is my coding review. The beginning of the video got a little messed up, so this was the diagram I was explaining in the first part, which is the student information system diagram, and then I also explained this diagram here, the sequence diagram for registering a student for classes, and then also the SIS communication diagram.